My younger brother scheduled his birthday party the night before my wedding to sabotage me. My parents chose him and missed my ceremony. But when they showed up at 4 a.m. screaming at my house, I sued them, and now they have a 2-year restraining order. I'm 31 years old, work in financial consulting, and what happened with my family during my wedding basically destroyed whatever relationship was left with my parents and my brother Austin. The truth is, I'd known for years that things were bad, but I guess part of me still had hope that when an important moment like my marriage came around, they could, I don't know, act like normal adults for once. But well, you can see how that turned out. I should start at the beginning so you understand the whole situation. Austin is 28, so 3 years younger than me, and ever since we were kids, he was always my parents' golden child. It wasn't just that they gave him more attention or more stuff, it was that he could literally do whatever he wanted without consequences, while I had to be the perfect one, the responsible one, the one who never caused problems. When I was like 15 and got a B in math, my parents took away my phone for 2 months. Austin failed 3 classes that same year, and my dad bought him a new console because, and I quote, he needed something to cheer him up. You know what I mean? That was my whole life. Over time, things only got worse. I went to college, graduated, got a good job, met Lauren, who's amazing, and basically built my life the way you're supposed to. Austin, on the other hand, spent his time jumping from job to job, living with my parents until he was 26, and when he finally moved out, it was because my parents paid his deposit and first 3 months of rent on an apartment. Now he works as a freelancer, and when I say freelancer, I mean he does occasional graphic design work for friends and basically still depends on my parents' money to survive. Austin and I were never close, but things got really tense like 2 years ago when I started distancing myself more from the family. There were too many dinners where my parents spent 2 hours talking about how talented Austin was and his projects, while completely ignoring anything I mentioned about my life. Lauren noticed it before I did, honestly. After one particularly horrible dinner, she told me in the car, "Do you realize they didn't even ask about your promotion?" And she was right. I'd gotten a major promotion with a salary increase and everything, mentioned it at the beginning of dinner, and my parents said something like, "That's great, son," and then spent the rest of the night talking about a logo Austin had designed for a friend's business, so I started seeing my parents less. It wasn't dramatic or anything. I just stopped going to all the family gatherings and started being busy more often. Austin obviously noticed, and I think it bothered him because he always needed me there, as his emotional punching bag, you know? Like his comparison point so my parents could tell him how special he was. Without me there constantly, he lost that dynamic. Last year, Lauren and I got engaged. It was in December. Super romantic. She said yes immediately, and we were so excited. We told my family, like 2 weeks later at a Christmas dinner, and the reaction was lukewarm, to say the least. My mom said congratulations and gave me a quick hug. My dad said, well, good. It was about time. Austin didn't even look up from his phone. But whatever. I expected something like that, so I wasn't too surprised. We started planning the wedding for this October. We wanted something not too big but nice, at a hotel about 8 hours from where my family lives, because it was where Lauren and I had spent our first anniversary, and the place was beautiful. We sent out invitations in June, so 4 months advance notice, more than enough for everyone to make plans. Everyone confirmed they were coming, including my parents and Austin, and I thought, okay, maybe this will turn out well. August came and everything was going perfectly. Lauren was handling the final details. I was dealing with the budget part and coordinating with the hotel. We had like 80 guests confirmed, including all my extended family, my cousins, aunts, and uncles, everyone. I was genuinely excited. I thought maybe this would be the moment where my family could celebrate something of mine without making it about Austin somehow. And then, 3 weeks before the wedding, I get a message from Austin. We hadn't talked in months, basically, so that was already weird. I open the message, and it's a photo of an invitation. An invitation for his 28th birthday. The date. Want to guess when it was? The night before my wedding. Literally the Friday before our Saturday wedding. I sat there staring at that photo for like 5 minutes, unable to process it. Lauren was next to me, and when I showed her, she just said, "You're kidding." But no, there it was, this elaborate invitation for Austin's birthday party, scheduled for the exact night before my marriage. Austin's message said something like, "I know it's last minute, but I decided to celebrate my birthday this year. Hope you can make it." They were in August, and he was sending invitations for a birthday party 5 months late, specifically scheduled to conflict with my wedding. It wasn't even subtle, it was obvious and blatant what he was doing. I called my parents immediately. My mom answered, and when I asked her if she'd seen Austin's invitation, she said yes, that he'd decided to celebrate his birthday late this year because he'd been too busy before. I told her, "Mom, it's the night before my wedding. It's obvious he's doing this on purpose." She got all defensive and said Austin didn't have to schedule his life around mine, that his birthday was important to him and he had a right to celebrate it whenever he wanted. I swear I felt like I was in an alternate reality. I told her, "His birthday was 5 months ago. He's doing this to sabotage my wedding." She said, I was being dramatic and self-centered, that not everything was about me. My dad joined the call at that point and basically said the same thing, that Austin could do what he wanted, and I needed to stop making everything about myself. I tried to reason with them. I said, "Look, I understand you want to celebrate Austin's birthday, but you literally have 365 days to do it. Why does it have to be right the night before my wedding?" My dad said the date was already set, and they weren't going to tell Austin to change his plans. I asked them directly, "So you're going to go to his party instead of my wedding?" And there was a long silence before my mom said, "Well, we can drive back early in the morning to make it to your ceremony." The wedding was at 2 in the afternoon, 8 hours from where they live. They would have had to leave like 5 in the morning to arrive on time, and that's assuming they weren't hungover or exhausted from the party the night before. I told them this, and my dad just said, "We'll make it work." But I already knew they weren't coming. I told my cousins and aunts and uncles what was happening. Everyone was shocked. My cousin Daniel, who'd always been close to me, called me and said Austin was an idiot and obviously doing this for attention. My Aunt Rosa, my mom's sister, called my mom directly to tell her this was ridiculous and how could they even consider missing my wedding. Basically, all my extended family was on my side, which helped me feel like I wasn't completely crazy. I tried to talk to Austin directly. I called him, and when he answered, I said, "Bro, are you really gonna do this?" He played dumb, said, "What? I'm just having a birthday party." I told him I knew exactly what he was doing, that it was obvious he'd scheduled this for the night before my wedding on purpose. He laughed, like a forced, uncomfortable laugh, and said I was paranoid, that the world didn't revolve around me. So I asked him, "If it's not about my wedding, why didn't you celebrate your birthday in March like a normal person?" He went quiet for a moment and then said, "Because I didn't want to," and hung up. The next 2 weeks were horrible. My parents weren't consistently answering my calls. When I managed to talk to them, they kept insisting everything would be fine, that they'd make it to the wedding. But I knew it was a lie. Lauren was furious but trying to stay calm for me. My cousins started organizing a group chat without my parents or Austin to coordinate among themselves and make sure we'd all be there supporting me. 1 week before the wedding, my parents finally admitted they wouldn't be able to make it to the ceremony. My mom called me crying, saying she felt terrible but they couldn't miss Austin's birthday because he'd be devastated. I told her, "So I can be devastated at my wedding, but Austin can't be devastated at a fake birthday party 5 months late," and she just kept saying, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." My dad got on the phone and was more direct, said they'd made their decision and hoped I'd understand someday. I told them if they didn't come to my wedding, our relationship would be over. My dad said I was being manipulative and dramatic, that I was putting unnecessary ultimatums. I told him, "It's not an ultimatum, it's a consequence," and hung up. Lauren hugged me while I basically had a breakdown. I think that was the first time I really processed that my own parents were going to miss my marriage for my brother's fake birthday party. Friday arrived, the night before the wedding. We were all at the hotel. There was a small ceremony rehearsal, and then a dinner with close family and closest friends. All my cousins were there, my aunts and uncles, Lauren's parents, our friends. The only people missing were my parents and Austin. I tried to enjoy the night, but it was hard not to feel that void. My cousin Jenny had decided to play detective and got on Austin's Facebook to see how his party was going. Turns out only like 10 people showed up, almost all Austin's friends who probably felt sorry for him. Jenny showed me the photos, and there was something almost pathetic about seeing them: Austin with his fake birthday hat, my parents trying to look happy, a table with a ridiculously large cake for the amount of people who came. It should have given me satisfaction, but it just made me feel sad. Saturday was the wedding day. I'm not going to lie. It was hard starting the day knowing my parents wouldn't be there. Lauren found me like at 10 in the morning on the hotel balcony, basically having another mini existential crisis. She sat with me and said, "Look at me. Today we're getting married. We have 78 people downstairs who love us and want to celebrate with us. Your parents are the ones missing this, not us." And she was right. Obviously, she was right. The ceremony was beautiful. My cousin Daniel was my best man, because Austin obviously wasn't there, and he gave an amazing speech about the family you choose versus the family you get. I think everyone knew what he was referring to. Lauren was perfect. I managed not to cry too much during the vows, and when they declared us husband and wife, everyone applauded and cheered, and for a moment, I completely forgot about my parents' drama. The reception was in full swing when my phone started ringing. It was my mom. I ignored it because, "Hello." I was at my wedding reception. She called 4 times in a row. Finally, Lauren told me maybe it was an emergency and I should answer. I left the hall and called back. My mom was crying, but not from sadness, but from rage. She started yelling at me, saying I'd turned the whole family against Austin and them, that nobody had gone to the party because I'd manipulated them, that I was a terrible, selfish son. I was so shocked I couldn't even respond. My dad took the phone and continued with the same thing, saying I'd destroyed the family, that Austin was devastated because basically nobody went to his birthday, that it was all my fault for being so vindictive. I told them, "You're calling me at my wedding to yell at me because you decided to miss it for a fake party nobody wanted to go to, and I'm the problem?" My mom grabbed the phone again and said I knew exactly what I'd done, that I'd badmouthed them and Austin to the whole family. I told her the only thing I'd done was explain the situation, that the family had made their own decisions about where they wanted to be. She said I was a liar and manipulator, and then I hung up. I went back to the reception trying to act normal, but Lauren saw my face and knew something bad had happened. I told her quickly, and she was shocked. Daniel overheard part of the conversation and came over to ask what happened. When I explained, he pulled out his phone and told me, "I'm done with this shit. I'm going to send everyone a message explaining exactly what happened." And I told him, "You know what? Do it." That night, near the end of the reception, Daniel sent a long email to all the extended family, including my parents and Austin. In the email, he explained in detail everything that had happened, from Austin's last-minute invitation, my parents' excuses, the fact that they missed my wedding for a party, almost nobody attended, and the call they made me during my reception blaming me for everything. He was specific, included dates and screenshots of conversations, basically put all the drama in one very organized document. The responses started coming in that same night. My Aunt Rosa sent a direct message to my parents saying she was ashamed of them and didn't want to talk to them for a while. My Uncle Roberto did the same. My cousins started a group chat without my parents or Austin, and basically everyone said they were going to cut contact with them until they apologized to me properly. I didn't ask them to do that, but I didn't stop it either. The truth is, it felt good to have my whole family clearly on my side. Lauren and I left for our honeymoon 3 days later. We had it planned for 2 weeks in Italy, and we decided to basically turn off our phones and enjoy without thinking about the drama. When we came back from the honeymoon, there were like 50 unread emails. Most were from relatives sending wedding photos and nice messages. But there were 3 emails from my parents and 2 from Austin that I clearly wasn't going to want to read. They accused me of orchestrating a smear campaign against them, said I'd lied about what happened, that they'd tried to make it to the wedding but had car trouble. I guess they had amnesia about the call, where they told me directly they weren't coming and that I was a horrible son who was destroying the family for attention. They also said Austin was in therapy now because he was depressed about how the whole family had treated him. Austin's emails were worse. One was long and rambling, basically saying I'd always been jealous of him, that I'd spent my life trying to make him look bad to the family, that the birthday party had been innocent, and I turned it into something malicious. The second email was shorter but more aggressive, telling me I'd regret what I'd done, that he and my parents weren't going to forget this betrayal, and that he hoped I was happy now that I'd managed to isolate them. I didn't respond to any of them. Lauren convinced me it wasn't worth engaging. But like a week later, my parents called me. I answered because I thought maybe they were going to apologize. Instead, they told me they wanted to have a family call, that Austin would be there too, to talk about all this and resolve it. I agreed because, honestly, a stupid part of me still had hope we could fix things. We scheduled the call for a Sunday afternoon. When I connected, there were my parents and Austin on a video call, all three looking super serious. My dad started by saying this conversation was to clear the air and restore family peace. I said, okay, I'm listening. And then, they basically spent 40 minutes blaming me for everything. They said I'd turned the family against them by telling my biased version of events, that I'd exaggerated everything to play victim, that I needed to take responsibility for the damage I'd caused. Austin said his birthday had been ruined by me, and I owed him an apology. My mom was crying, saying she couldn't believe her son was so cruel. At no point did anyone acknowledge they'd missed my wedding. At no point did anyone apologize for the call during my reception. At no point did Austin admit he'd scheduled his party specifically to cause conflict. Basically, they wanted me to apologize to them and convince the whole family to forgive them and talk to them again. I told them no. I told them they made their choices. Those choices had consequences, and I wasn't going to fix anything for them because I hadn't done anything wrong. My dad turned red and started yelling that I was selfish, that I'd always been the problem in the family, that I should be grateful they still wanted to talk to me after what I did. I told him, "You missed my wedding for a fake party," and hung up. I thought that would be the end, that they'd finally realize I wasn't going to give in and would leave me alone. But no, things got worse. Like 2 weeks after that call, around 4 in the morning, Lauren and I woke up to someone aggressively banging on the door and shouting. My heart was racing. I went downstairs and looked through the peephole. It was my parents in Austin. They were on my property at 4 in the morning, banging on my door and yelling for me to open up, that we needed to talk now. The neighbors started turning on lights. I yelled through the door for them to leave or I'd call the police. My dad yelled he wasn't leaving until we talked, that this had gone too far and I was going to listen to them now. Austin started banging on my living room window, and that's when Lauren called 911. The police arrived in like 10 minutes, but it felt like an hour. By then, my parents and Austin were sitting in my yard refusing to leave. The officers told them they had to get off my property. My dad tried to explain to them it was a family dispute and they just wanted to talk to their son. But the officers were clear that it was private property and I had the right to ask them to leave. They finally left. But before leaving, my mom yelled at me that I was a coward, and this wasn't over. Lauren was shaking when it was all over. She told me this wasn't just family drama anymore, that this was harassment, and we needed legal protection. The next day, I contacted a lawyer specializing in family law. I explained the whole situation from the beginning, showed him Austin's threatening emails, told him about the 4 in the morning incident. He told me I had enough basis to request a restraining order. It was weird, because requesting a restraining order against your own parents and your brother feels extreme, you know? But the lawyer explained that their behavior was escalating, and I needed to protect my wife and myself. We filled out all the documentation, included statements from neighbors who saw the 4 in the morning incident, included copies of the threatening emails, basically built a solid case. The hearing was like 3 weeks later. My parents and Austin had to be there, and seeing them in that legal context was surreal. My dad tried to talk to me before the hearing started, but my lawyer told him he couldn't approach. During the hearing, the judge heard all the evidence, read the emails, heard my neighbor's testimony about the night incident, and heard my parents and Austin try to justify their actions by saying they just wanted to resolve a family dispute. The judge asked them directly if they understood that showing up at someone's house at 4 in the morning uninvited was unacceptable. And my dad tried to say it was special circumstances because I'd ignored their attempts to communicate. The judge basically told them that didn't justify anything, and their behavior was intimidating and potentially dangerous. They granted me the restraining order. 2 years. My parents in Austin can't contact me directly or indirectly, can't come within 500 feet of my house or workplace, can't send me emails or messages. My mom started crying in court. Austin was visibly furious. My dad just looked defeated. I left that courtroom, feeling relieved but also sad. You know? Because, at the end of the day, these are my parents. This is my brother. And we got to a point where a judge had to legally force them to leave me alone because they couldn't understand they'd done something wrong. That was like 3 months ago. I haven't heard anything from them since then, obviously because they legally can't contact me. I know from my cousins that my parents are still playing victim, saying I exaggerated everything and the restraining order was unnecessary. Austin is apparently living back with them because he can't pay his rent alone, which is ironic somehow. Lauren and I finally got to take our extended honeymoon last month. We went to Greece this time because the Italy trip was kind of tainted by all the stress when we got back. It was amazing to finally relax without worrying about my parents showing up at our house or Austin sending another aggressive email. My extended family has been incredible through all this. Daniel told me last week that my parents tried to contact him to ask him to convince me to drop the restraining order, and he basically told them no, that they caused this and had to live with the consequences. My Aunt Rosa comes over for dinner every 2 weeks and always asks how I'm handling everything. It's weird, but good to have that support, you know? Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. If maybe I should have tried harder, or forgiven faster, or been more flexible. But then I remember my parents yelling at me on my property at 4 a.m, and I know I had no choice. Lauren constantly reminds me that setting boundaries doesn't make you bad, that protecting yourself isn't selfish. The restraining order expires in like a year and 9 months. I don't know what will happen after that. I don't know if my parents will try to contact me again, or if by then they'll have accepted that our relationship is over. I don't know if Austin will ever understand that what he did was incredibly toxic and destructive. Honestly, at this point, I'm not even sure I care anymore. What I do know is that Lauren and I are good. That we built a life together, surrounded by people who genuinely love and support us. That our wedding, despite all the drama, was beautiful and meaningful. And that sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're given. I guess that'll have to be enough.